The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning. 47 people watched as Marcus slid the divorce papers across the table at my promotion dinner. Everyone expected tears. Screaming. Maybe I'd throw my wine in his face. Instead, I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila folder. "Congratulations on your honesty," I said, my voice steady. "You should have tried it 6 months ago." The room went silent. Marcus's face went from smug confidence to confusion in seconds. Because he didn't know about the folder. He didn't know I'd been preparing since January. And he definitely didn't know about the prenup clause his lawyer apparently never explained to him. What happened next would destroy him completely. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a financial analyst like me ended up holding all the cards while my husband held nothing but lies. I met Marcus 12 years ago at a corporate training seminar. He was charming, ambitious, and made me laugh during a particularly boring presentation about quarterly projections. We married 2 years later in a small ceremony by the lake. Back then, I thought we'd build a life together. I was making $70,000 a year as a junior analyst. Marcus was pulling in 45 as a sales associate. His career mattered more, he said. So when his company offered him a position 3 states away, I quit my job and followed him. I found work at a smaller firm, took a pay cut, and told myself it was temporary. It wasn't. For 10 years, I supported Marcus's career. I worked part-time when he needed to travel for months. I turned down 2 promotions because they required relocation and he refused to move again. I paid for his MBA with my savings, $38,000 that I'd inherited from my grandmother. When he started his own consulting business 3 years ago, I kept the books. Unpaid. I handled invoices, tracked expenses, managed payroll for his 3 employees. "We're building something together," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "Once the business takes off, you can retire early if you want." I believed him. That was my first mistake. The changes started last fall. Marcus began working late every Tuesday and Thursday. His phone, which used to sit on the kitchen counter during dinner, now lived in his pocket. When I'd ask about his day, he'd give one-word answers and scroll through emails. "You're being paranoid," he said when I mentioned feeling disconnected. "I'm stressed about the business." "Can you not make everything about you?" I stopped asking after that. But I started noticing. Because 20 years in finance taught me one thing: patterns matter. And Marcus's patterns were changing. It was January 15th when I found the receipt. I was putting away his dry cleaning when a small piece of paper fell from his jacket pocket. "Hotel Riverside," it read. January 12th. Room 412. $732. We weren't on vacation January 12th. Marcus said he was visiting a client in Philadelphia. The Hotel Riverside was downtown. 20 minutes from our house. I sat on our bedroom floor, holding that receipt, and felt something shift inside me. Not heartbreak yet. Something colder. More calculating. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. I didn't confront him. Something held me back, maybe instinct, maybe my training. Instead, I opened my laptop and started investigating. Our joint credit card statements went back 18 months online. I downloaded every single one. The patterns emerged quickly. Charges to the same restaurants on days Marcus claimed to be working late. Hotel rooms in our city when he said he was traveling. Jewelry purchases I never received. Over the next week, I found 63 suspicious transactions totaling nearly $19,000. But I needed more than credit card receipts. I needed proof that would hold up in court. Marcus's business laptop sat in his home office. He usually locked it, but one Sunday morning while he showered, I noticed he'd left it open. My hand shook as I inserted the flash drive I'd bought specifically for this moment. It took 4 minutes to copy his entire email archive. 4 minutes that felt like 40. When I heard the water shut off, I ejected the drive, closed the laptop, and walked calmly back to the kitchen. I was making pancakes when he came downstairs. "Smells good," he said, kissing my cheek. Your favorite, I replied, smiling. Inside, I was screaming. That night, after Marcus fell asleep, I read every email. There were hundreds from someone named Vanessa Cole. The first was dated 14 months ago. Just business correspondence initially, she was a client. But by March, the tone changed. Can't stop thinking about yesterday, she wrote. When can I see you again? His response made my stomach turn. Tuesday. Same place. Can't wait to have you all to myself. I read them all. Every I love you. Every plan they made. Every lie he told her about me. My wife doesn't understand me, he'd written. She's so focused on her boring job, she barely notices I'm alive. The worst email came in July. Marcus wrote to Vanessa, I'm working with my lawyer on an exit strategy. If I file first and time it right, she'll get almost nothing. The business is in my name. I've been moving money to accounts she doesn't know about. By this time next year, I'll be free and we can finally be together. I read that line 7 times. He'd been planning to leave me for months. He'd been stealing from our future. And he thought I was too stupid or distracted to notice. He was wrong. I spent February gathering evidence. I hired a private investigator, paid cash, used a burner phone. Within 3 weeks, I had photographs of Marcus and Vanessa entering hotels, restaurants, her apartment. Timestamps, locations, everything documented. But I needed more. I pulled up the business records I'd meticulously kept for the past 3 years. I noticed discrepancies I'd somehow missed before. Money that didn't match up. Transfers to an account I couldn't access. Marcus had created a secret business account and had been funneling money into it for 11 months. $37,000 so far. Almost exactly what I'd paid for his MBA. Then I remembered something. When we married, Marcus had insisted on a prenup. His parents had money, he explained. They wanted their assets protected. I didn't care, I loved him, not his family's money. I signed the papers after a quick glance, trusting his lawyer's summary. I'd never actually read it carefully. Until now. I dug out our copy from the fireproof safe. Section 14, paragraph 3 made my heart race. In the event of infidelity proven by photographic, video, financial, or written evidence, the faithful party retains the primary residence, 70% of joint investments, and full discretion over division of business assets acquired during the marriage. Marcus had insisted on a fidelity clause to protect himself. And I'd just collected evidence that would destroy him under those exact terms. But that wasn't enough. I wanted more than financial victory. I wanted him to feel what I felt, the betrayal, the humiliation, the realization that someone you trusted was actively working to destroy you. So I kept playing the role. I made his favorite meals. I asked about his day. I kissed him goodbye each morning. And at night, while he slept beside me, I built my case. I contacted a lawyer, Maria Whitmore, the best divorce attorney in the state. She reviewed my evidence and smiled. This is the most documented case I've seen in 23 years, she said. He doesn't stand a chance. By April, I had everything. Photographs, emails, bank records, witness statements from the private investigator. The prenup. Documentation of every penny I'd contributed to his business, his education, our life together. Maria prepared the divorce petition. When do you want to file? She asked. I thought about it. Marcus had planned a surprise for me, a promotion dinner at the Riverside Hotel's restaurant. My boss had called him weeks ago to coordinate. Marcus thought he was being supportive. He didn't know I was being promoted to senior financial analyst with a 30% raise. The night of my promotion dinner, I said. May 12th. I want it public. Maria raised her eyebrows but nodded. Your call. May 12th arrived. I dressed carefully, a navy dress Marcus always said was too conservative, but I loved. I did my own hair and makeup. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the calm woman staring back. 6 months ago, finding that receipt had nearly broken me. Now I felt powerful. At the restaurant, 47 colleagues, friends, and family members filled the private dining room. Marcus sat beside me, checking his phone every few minutes. I wondered if he was texting Vanessa. I wondered if she knew where he was tonight. My boss gave a speech about my dedication and talent. People applauded. Marcus squeezed my hand and smiled. And then, as dessert arrived, he stood up. "I have an announcement," Marcus said, his voice carrying across the room. People quieted, expecting a toast. "I've been thinking a lot about my life, my future. And I've realized something important." I watched him, my face neutral. Here it comes, I thought. I'm not happy in my marriage. Haven't been for a long time. So I've made a decision. He pulled papers from his jacket and slid them across the table to me. "These are divorce papers. I'm filing. I want to move on with my life, and honestly, you should too. You'll be fine. You're good at your job. You'll manage." The room erupted. Someone gasped. My boss stood up, furious. Marcus's own brother shook his head in disgust. My mother's face went pale. I looked down at the papers, then back up at Marcus. Then I smiled. I reached into my purse, pulled out the manila folder I'd been carrying for weeks, and placed it on the table. I slid it toward Marcus with one finger. "You should read page 7 of your own prenup before you continue," I said quietly. "Your lawyer, the one your parents hired, apparently didn't explain it well." Marcus frowned, confused. He opened the folder. I watched his face as he read. Watched confidence turn to confusion, confusion turn to panic. His hand holding the papers started to shake. "This says," he began. "It says infidelity proven by evidence results in asset forfeiture. I have 14 months of evidence, Marcus. Photographs, emails, bank records. Your secret account. Your hotel receipts. Your plans to leave me with nothing." I kept my voice level, professional. "Your business? The one I built and managed for 3 years? 70% mine per the prenup. The house? Mine. Our investments? 70% mine." The room was completely silent now. Everyone stared at Marcus, who'd gone white. You can't," he stammered. "I already did. Divorce petition was filed this morning. You'll be served officially tomorrow, but I wanted you to know tonight. On my big night." I stood up, smoothed my dress, and looked around the room. "Please enjoy your desserts. This doesn't change anything about my promotion. I've worked very hard for this." I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard Marcus's voice, desperate. "Wait, Bianca, what is all this? We can talk about this." I didn't stop. I didn't look back. The door closed behind me with a soft click, and I stepped into the parking lot. My hands finally started shaking. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, breathing slowly, before I drove home. The next morning, Marcus's lawyer called mine. "Can we negotiate?" he asked Maria. She put him on speaker so I could hear. "No," Maria said simply. "Mrs. Torres has ironclad evidence of infidelity. The prenup Mr. Torres insisted upon is enforceable. We'll see you in court if he wants to fight, but I promise you, he will lose." Marcus called me directly that afternoon. I answered. "How long have you known?" he asked, his voice broken. "Since January," I replied calmly. "The Hotel Riverside receipt. That's 5 months. You've been, what? Spying on me? Protecting myself. There's a difference. This will ruin me." Yes, I agreed. It will. Should have thought of that before you planned to ruin me first. By June, the legal proceedings were underway. But I had one more card to play. Marcus's consulting business had 3 major clients. One of them was Henderson Corporation, a mid-sized firm with strict ethics policies. Their contract included a morality clause. I sent Henderson's legal department a simple email, I believe you should be aware that your consultant, Marcus Torres, conducted an affair with a former employee during business hours, using company time and resources. I attached hotel receipts showing charges during Henderson's contract period, emails using Henderson's client portal, and meeting cancellations that coincided with his hotel visits. Henderson terminated his contract within 48 hours. Marcus lost his biggest client, worth $200,000 annually. His business partner, Kevin, called me. "What did you do?" "I told the truth," I said. "You might want to check the business accounts Marcus has been hiding from you." Kevin did check. He found the secret account. He found where Marcus had been moving company profits, money that should have been split with Kevin as his business partner. Kevin filed a lawsuit within a week. Marcus's business collapsed in a month. Without Henderson's contract, without Kevin's trust, without the money he'd stolen now frozen by court order, he couldn't keep the doors open. And Vanessa? She disappeared the moment Marcus's money dried up. I heard through mutual connections that she called him when the accounts froze. "You told me you had money," she said. "You told me we'd have a good life." "It's temporary," Marcus promised. "Once the divorce settles." "I'm not waiting around for that." And she was gone. Blocked his number, moved out of state, started dating someone else within 3 weeks. Marcus had given up everything for a woman who never actually loved him. The court date came in August. Judge Patricia Mendez reviewed the evidence, photographs, emails, financial records, witness statements. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue the prenup was outdated, that circumstances had changed, that I was being vindictive. Judge Mendez looked at Marcus. "You created a document specifically to protect yourself from infidelity. You then committed infidelity and attempted to hide assets. The agreement stands." She banged her gavel. Primary residence awarded to Mrs. Torres. 70% of joint investments awarded to Mrs. Torres. Mr. Torres will liquidate his share of the business and transfer 70% of proceeds to Mrs. Torres. Court adjourned. Marcus stood there, frozen. His lawyer gathered papers silently. I walked out of that courtroom with my head high. 6 months later, I was sitting in my, now fully mine, living room when Marcus called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "I'm bankrupt," he said without preamble. "Kevin's lawsuit cleaned me out of what you didn't take. I'm living with my brother. Working retail. Vanessa won't return my calls. My parents won't speak to me, they're furious I violated the prenup they paid for." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "I guess I wanted you to know you won. Completely." I paused, considering my words. "I didn't win, Marcus. You lost. There's a difference. I just protected myself from your choices." He was quiet for a moment. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm not interested in your apology. I hope you figure out your life. Goodbye, Marcus." A year after the divorce, life looked nothing like I expected. It looked better. I'd been promoted again, director of financial analysis, with a 6-figure salary. I'd started consulting on the side, helping women and men navigate divorce finances. My first client was a woman whose husband had hidden accounts just like Marcus had. "How did you find everything?" she asked, amazed at what I'd uncovered in her case. 20 years in finance, I smiled. Numbers don't lie. They just hide. You need to know where to look. Word spread. Within 6 months, I had 15 clients. Within a year, I opened my own firm, Torres Financial Consulting. Women came to me defeated and scared. They left empowered and prepared. I live in the house Marcus thought he'd force me to sell. I renovated the home office, removed every trace of his business, painted the walls sage green, filled the shelves with books I actually wanted to read. The room where he plotted against me became the room where I rebuilt my life. My mornings are peaceful now. Coffee without tension. Breakfast without criticism. Silence that feels like peace instead of Cold War. I took up painting, joined a book club, reconnected with friends I drifted from during the marriage. People ask if I'm dating. I smile and say I'm dating myself first. Learning what I actually like, not what Marcus wanted me to like. For the first time in 12 years, I'm comfortable being alone. Because I'm not actually alone. I have friends, work I love, and most importantly, I have myself back. If anyone asks if I've forgiven Marcus, I pause. Forgiveness implies I'm still carrying what happened. I'm not. I've released it. Not for his sake. For mine. What he did taught me something crucial. I can't control other people's choices, but I can control my response. Being valued begins with valuing myself. Sometimes the life you're meant to live begins when the life you planned falls apart. A year ago, I stood in that restaurant, watching my marriage implode publicly. I felt humiliated, betrayed, destroyed. Today, I stand in my office, in my home, in my life, living a life I actually chose. Not compromised. Not settled. Chosen. The woman who believed every lie Marcus told, she's gone. The woman who accepted breadcrumbs and called it love, she doesn't exist anymore. In her place, someone who knows her worth. Someone who refuses to accept less. Someone who found strength in the breaking. Marcus wanted to erase me. To replace me with Vanessa. To write me out of his story. Instead, he freed me. Freed me to write my own story. And this story, my story, is better than anything we could have written together. Sometimes betrayal is just clarity in disguise. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. If you've been betrayed, know this, it's not your fault. You didn't cause it. You couldn't prevent it. But you can choose what happens next. You can choose strength. You can choose dignity. You can choose yourself. And when you do, you'll discover what I discovered, the life waiting on the other side of betrayal is the one you were meant to live all along.